Hi everyone, welcome back to the studio after a very quick transition. Lovely to be back with you. I'm joined now by Jennifer from Respondi. Belendi. Respondi, and Matt from Global Progress. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Pleasure.
I know you presented this morning, you were actually on the live stream, but you were talking about social media and the disruption of democracy. Can you tell me a little bit more, for anyone that's just joined in or who didn't get the chance to watch it earlier, a little bit more about the topic? It started obviously last year from our Fusion event, Best Paper Award.
Best Paper, we were very proud to have won that. So the paper that we actually did at the Fusion event last year was about how happy and unhappy people behave online, the types of things they do and how they utilise the web. And one key finding that came out of that was obviously, some quite in-depth analysis around fake news. So, so we were invited by Matt and Global Progress to delve further into the depths of fake news, basically. So our paper today was social media and the disruption of democracy, which it certainly is kind of a disruptor. Matt?
Yeah. Big grand title, yeah.
Brilliant. And so in the paper, you talked a little bit about how you found different groups of people, like the gullibles, the skeptics. Can you describe those groups a little bit to me and the nuances between them?
Well, Jenny can go into more detail about this, but today's paper we talked about we focused just on two of those groups, the fakists and the bourgeois, who have, and we talked about what we described as a paradox of digital democracy, which is the bourgeois tend to be much wealthier, they tend to kind of have an admiration for the big global giants like Facebook, Apple, I think, yet they're also the ones who are most in favor of regulation of social media, while the fakists tend to come from a lower income background. They tend to look at these big global tech giants as the epitome of everything they hate about the global capitalist world. Yet on the same hand, they're the arch defenders of Facebook when it comes to ideas about regulating them, because they say Facebook is an empowering voice for those people who have been excluded by the establishment. So while they, in principle, dislike these global media giants, they, in many ways, defend their business model.
And you came towards the end of the paper. You talked a lot about trust and distrust of, as you mentioned, the GAFAs. For the different personalities, how does their trust and distrust differ for these companies, and then what does that do for the digital democracy? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I suppose in regards to trust, so certainly the bourgeois, who tend to be, like Matt said, like more male, more well-educated, and household incomes a bit higher, and so on. They certainly, their trust comes from kind of more mainstream, traditional style news, whereas actually the fakists tend to, like, their trust with establishment, they're almost complete anti-establishment, if anything. So they would actually go to places like Facebook to read their news because they think that embodies the power of free speech. So trust, they both are very high, have high trust levels, but just trust levels to completely different things. So there's a bit of a paradox on that, really. Democracy,
although the interesting thing is that when it comes to actual fake news, even the sort of people who share it the most and consume it the most, they're not actually persuaded by it. What they actually use it as is in many ways a political emblem. So the distribution and the consumption and the support of fake news is a way of them saying, I am anti-establishment.
Okay.
Rather than saying
they believe the Loch Ness is real.
Exactly. So, but the other and one of the ways that illustrates itself is that regardless whether you believe Mossad was involved in 9/11 or Loch Ness Monster exists or vaccines cause autism, even though there's no logical link between any of those stories, those people who will consume and distribute one of those stories are likely to consume, believe and distribute all of those stories, which speaks to it being a sort of world view, even though when they're actually asked to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how persuasive these stories are, they're relatively low.
Interesting. And so you just mentioned rated on a scale. I was just about to ask, this was done, as I understand, in France, Germany, and the UK. Can you tell me a little bit about the methodology here? What happened? How many people did you get?
Yeah, so I can pick up on methodology. So we did run it, as you rightly said, in UK, France, and Germany. So we actually, at Respondi, we fuse various different data sources together. So we're an online panel company, so we have really highly engaged online panels. And the tagline of our business is close to people. So we're really trying to understand those full pictures and that full journey. And the bit that we were missing, because obviously we're getting all the survey and declarative data done, but the bit that we're missing is actually what people don't tell us they do, or that memory bias deals with. So for this project, we had 500 people per country, which we had a 20-minute survey on, and we also passively tracked them with some software that they choose and opt in to download. So we had 2 different data sets, one of what people say they do and what news they consume, and then we actually have the passively collected data of what they're actually doing online. We did actually broaden it out to 5 other markets after this. We just didn't have a time for the submission. So
next time,
next year, exactly.
Next year. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for chatting to me. Really interesting paper. For those of you watching, I hope you enjoyed the interview as well as the presentation that was streamed earlier on this morning. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Congress.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to it.
And as I say, I hope I get to chat with you more throughout the event.
Great,
so thank you.
Thank you.
And guys, you'll be joined now by Netta again back in the studio very, very shortly.